What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back. You know who it is. It's your boy, John. Got a special guest here, Mr. The man himself, fucking Missa.
What's up, guys?
Anthony is sick with COVID, but I think it's an excuse. I'm pretty sure it's an excuse. He's just trying to get out of training judo.
He's got a man flu?
Yeah, he's got the man flu. That's exactly what it is. Anyways, not to disappoint, we decided to do one off the cuff here. Missa was like, hey, I'll jump on. And so after I offered it, and so we're here.
Yeah.
We got some drinks, so.
After a long day, man.
After a long day.
Cheers.
Yeah, it was good. Definitely,
some good training.
It was definitely good training today. Yeah.
Yeah. Last night we talked about getting a little leg workout in, and man, it's been a while since I actually do.
Just legs?
Yeah, just like lifting, you know,
Yeah.
for specific muscle groups. I usually just do calisthenics and stuff like that, so it's like, but I like it because it kind of shocked my system a little bit, and I know that tomorrow and the next day I'm going to be like, oh yeah. Dude, even in class today, right away, I felt it.
Yeah, when we were running. Yeah, so we were training last night, and then I think you were like, hey, you're going to work out? And I was like, yeah, I try to do it a little every day. So he's like, let's do it before class. I was like, oh, God. So yeah, he came over like 8-something, 8:30. We got a good leg day in, and went straight to fucking class. I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah.
But I mean, I think I prefer that way because it actually kind of warmed me up.
For class.
It didn't kick in all the way.
Yeah.
Like the soreness until like right now, actually.
Yeah. Well, now you're kind of chill, relaxing a bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
But and in the moment, it was just more of like the fatigue of it, you know. Like I definitely.
When we were jogging, I was like, oh, okay, I feel this.
Oh,
like my legs are tired. Like they weren't hurting. They were just like, they were just like I could just tell you jello.
Yep.
I could tell. I was like, oh man.
Yeah, closed guard sucked.
Yeah.
Anytime somebody was trying to knee slice sucked.
Yeah. But it was good. It was a good day. It was a good training. I don't normally go on Saturdays, but I want to start going more on Saturdays and Sundays and just get some more training in. Omar has been like hounding me. Like every time I show up, he's like, you need to get comp ready. You need to get comp ready. You need to get comp. I'm like, oh my gosh. I was like, all right, I got you. I'll start training more.
Yeah, dude. Saturdays and Sundays, because there's not as many people usually, you get a lot of rolls in.
Yeah.
It's either that or whoever's instructing will get a lot of time in on the technique.
On the technique?
Yeah, so you'll get maybe half the class is technique, and then the last half of it is more
rolling.
Just depending on how many people are there.
I know that because I took like 2 weeks off, and then even before that, it was kind of like only going like 3 times a week. It was like just a bunch of stuff going on. So like the past like 2 weeks now, I've been like trying to be there. But now I'm like fucking. I look like I got abused. My freaking eyeball is like completely like. My eyeball is completely like rubbed raw right now. Like it feels like a rug burn on my face, and I was like, oh yeah, this is part of the more training. More training means more bruises. And I don't typically bruise that easy, so I'm like, I don't even know how that happened because that's a bad one.
It was a good one, yeah. It was a solid hit.
Yeah, I was like, man.
We were talking about it earlier too. Like, I think it's going to be, it's probably best to hold off and then, this coming year start really hitting.
Yeah, you were saying you want to compete.
Yeah.
My only thing is we're at the end of the season. Mm-hmm. And so, my thinking was this, like, you can go compete, but you're not going to gain any points towards anything at this point.
Yeah.
You're going to compete just to compete for fun.
Yeah.
Which, it's always kind of fun, experience, which there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
But at the same time now, you're putting that risk.
And
you pay for it, and you're putting the risk of getting injured when you compete, because that happens a lot in competitions, right? So that was my thinking. Is like, I'm just going to wait until, whatever the first, start January, because then you can start getting IBJJF, you can start doing World League, you can there's so many tournaments going on. There was a while, like in the beginning of the year, that was my goal, was to like compete as much as possible so that I can compete at World Masters, and then earlier in the year, like I got a bunch of competitions in, and then I hurt my back, and then I was like, fuck.
That's always the case, dude.
Yeah.
Something happens, and it's like.
Then it was just downhill, and then
I think, man, honestly, it's probably more of like an excuse for me, because I'm not like weight-wise and physically there, like how I want to be. I'm probably like 230 something right now. And I compete at 222. So
wait, you competed at 222 and under, right?
Yes, I prefer that. I prefer that.
Did you do ultra last
time? I did ultra, but man.
But you get gold though.
I did. I won, but I felt like I got like not lucky, but I'm like, man, if that's all I did, like those boys are heavy, dude.
Yeah, they're big boys.
And every time they move, like the good thing is
I think I got silver on that tournament. I don't remember what I got. I think I got a silver medal.
I think the good thing is that they tire quickly, right? Like
yeah,
they're big, so if I move around a little bit, they're already huffing and puffing.
Yeah.
And after two
just
matches,
some hand fighting.
Yeah.
Yeah, just some hand fighting.
So that's a good thing. I'm definitely more athletic than them, but I don't know. I think it's more competitive for sure for me at 222.
Yeah, they're faster, more in shape.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's just like I'm going against myself. Sometimes I'm like, oh fuck. So yeah, I don't know.
For me, it's because I'm short. Like when I did 220, I was like, fuck, these guys are. But for me, it was like I remember competing one of the tournaments, and the dude was really tall, but then he tried to like move me, and I was like,
it didn't happen.
I'm not moving, bro. I'm short, fucking thick. Like I got a solid base. Yeah, he was like trying to like yank me, and I was like,
yeah, it's not happening.
I was like, that's not gonna work, bro. You're gonna have to do something different. But when you get down to like playing from like a half guard or something like that, like trying to get deep half or get their legs fucking extend for miles for me, and so I'm like,
and that's your game too.
Yeah, I was like, I can't reach your leg. Like, what the heck? So I gotta try something different. So
what do you usually do against like? Because I know we got a bunch of tall dudes in our gym that it's like.
I take them down and just try to get on top, or I'll pull guard. But when I pull guard with someone tall, I have to be like precise and like make sure I really yank them down when I pull guard, because if they get any space,
they just pull back.
My leg goes.
Yep. Yeah.
And so I have to really, and then I usually with those guys, because they're usually lighter than me, I'll go straight into lasso. So I'll pull guard, go straight into lasso before they can try to control them, because then now I have control, and then I can go to sweeps and stuff like that. But when I pull guard with someone tall, I really have to like really focus on making sure when I pull, I'm like yanking them down with me so I can create the tension. Otherwise, like I've had it a few times where I go for it and I'm like, oh shit.
They just like move the legs around. You're like, oh damn.
And I'm like, oh man, I feel like an idiot.
Man.
Yeah.
It's like whenever I go with certain guys the tall dudes that are really good, I just the same deal. I mean, it's more about control. Like I'm gonna see how I can wrap these guys up, because my game is, I mean, I do the lasso, so that's what I do anyway. But yeah, it's good to see the different body styles to change your game up.
Yeah,
man.
you have to.
Because in competition, that's what it's going to be.
Yeah, yeah.
And especially at 222, the guys are usually taller. It's usually like 6 foot and above. I'm like 5'10" something, 5. So everyone's usually taller.
I've been really trying to focus on like connection from everywhere, like pressure and connection from everywhere. So when I'm anywhere I'm moving, if I catch myself like leaving space, I'm like, oh yeah, now like make sure I keep my head, and I've been trying to like grind my head, like use my head against their face a little bit to hide everything and make it super uncomfortable for them. So
it's always
I got a compliment not too long ago about that. They were like, dude, they're like, you feel like I'm rolling with Leo, because like I was just like trying to stay connected from everywhere and stay heavy from every change, every move I made. I was trying to make sure I kept my weight. And then recently I was reading, there's this guy, I found him on Reddit. His name's John B. Williams. He's one of the Dirty Dozen. And I came across, I was in Vegas and I was like reading, I was on Reddit, and then at night, and I came across his post, and it was like a really deep, in-depth post. And I was like, man, who the fuck is this guy? And then people in the comments were like, is this really you? Technique and like just the way he was speaking was very well written. And really like, it just felt really like good. Like the way he talked and the way he wrote, it just was really good. And I was like sucked in. And apparently like that's why I was like looking at the comments, because I read it and I was sucked in. Like I was like, I read it. He had a big ass post. I read the whole thing and I was like, it was like midnight and I was like, Huh?
If I used AI.
Yeah. No, I don't
I
think
use
so.
that shit all the time.
It didn't have that feeling.
No, it was real.
Yeah, and then the comments were like, "Is this really you?" Like blah blah blah, and it was like, and I'm like, who is this guy? So I look it up, and he's like part of the Dirty Dozen, like one of the first 12, black belts or whatever from Jiu-Jitsu in the United States.
Huh.
And one of the posts he put was, and this was a simple post. It said, any weight on the mats is not on your opponent.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
Any weight on the mats is not on your opponent.
Yeah.
I was like,
well, that's why you see Omar all the time talk like he really harps on getting on your tippy toes
Yeah.
and pushing down.
I like that game. It's not always perfect.
No, yeah,
especially in side control.
They
can get and then in side control they can get there. So
yeah.
I do try to adjust to kind of keep it more modern because you got to keep your legs closed and but when you want to be heavy, like you got to be on your toes.
I think
drive
it's
pressure.
the principle of it applies throughout jiu-jitsu, but it doesn't mean you have to be tripoded like that physical movement. Yeah. It's like more of like just like you said, connection, like staying close, staying on top, and like keeping your head right into their chest, right into their chin.
Making it
uncomfortable. Yeah.
I don't want to call it dirty because it's not really dirty, but making it uncomfortable. Yeah.
I was recently I've been kind of like teaching a little bit, and Omar kind of puts I'll do like the white belts on the side. Today I was teaching some newer white belts, some ladies, and I was showing them the double underpass. So
double under,
so you get the double under, you pull them in, and you go across, and you kind of have to put put the forearm right in their chin, and like make it hurt, so that it's easier for you to pass. So I was showing them, and like they were getting it, but I could tell they were hesitant to like put all the weight, and I'm like, okay, I think I understand.
That's a big, like even when I first started, and I think a lot of people, unless you came from like a combat sport or like something like that,
you're not used to it.
You're not used to being aggressive like that, and putting your full body weight on someone. It's uncomfortable.
Let alone your forearm in someone's throat.
Yeah,
and they're like,
they start gurgling. Yeah, so I can see where they're timid about that, but that'll go away.
That's why I told them, I was like, look.
Well, once it happens to them over and over, they'll be like, fuck this shit.
Yeah. They'll get jaded very shortly.
Yeah.
No, I just told them, like, hey, look, I know it sucks. Like, you're not, obviously we're training here, so you're not like digging in. But when you're actually doing it and like, against someone else, to make it effective, this is how you have to do it. Yeah. Otherwise, they're just going to push you off or like roll away or something
The other day, you were talking about teaching, and something you brought up was interesting. I thought it was interesting where you were saying like how far, like you can go down a rabbit hole with a technique, and how far do you go with new people? Like how far can you go? Like just teaching a simple technique, there's so many little things that you think of, and it's like
even with the basics.
Yeah, it's like how much are they? When you're talking to someone new, that like how much are they actually going to retain of the details? Versus let me just show you how it's done. And then, like, do you go over like in depth, or do you just go over
the principles
of it?
Yep. I asked Omar, and he showed me exactly how he would teach it to a white belt, and it was just basically, you're here, you're here, you're here. It was an armbar from the guard.
Yeah.
And it's like just the most basic technique, but there's a lot of little details that make it effective, because armbar from the guard is one of those things you learn as a white belt the first day you show up. But you don't master it until later, dude.
Yeah, way later. Yeah.
So it's like
because and that's something like I've seen is like you'll watch Omar teach something that he's taught before, but then he teaches a different detail to it, and you're like, oh, and then you're like, then you use it, and you're like, oh, now it's working for me.
But it's like if you're not there consistently, you're gonna miss that.
Yeah.
Because like it's not like he teaches all the details
in
one class.
Yeah. It'll always
be
different.
Like a principle, and then it'll be like a transition to something. And then you get the armbar, but then the details of the actual armbar.
Well, like even breaking down an armbar from like mount, the basic is like lift the arm. For a lot of people, it's like cross the face, and then kick over. But to make it really effective, for me, I found it's not just that. It's like cross the arm, take my right leg, bend it at a 90-degree angle on the side of my foot, like an S mount kind of, slide it under, and then put my weight on them, so that my weight's on them and then that makes this leg lighter, and like those are all the details
Yep.
that like
That's when
they're not
going to
get. That's when they get lost. They're
Yeah.
not going to get
Yeah.
that, and you're not until they like you're saying until they get like the understanding of what an armbar is. They're never going to retain that. And then, something I've been thinking more and more about is like, 'cause I get comments a lot about like that I know a lot of techniques or like I remember a lot of techniques, and I'm like, I forgot more techniques than I learned, and I feel like that's a common thing across jiu-jitsu is you're gonna forget more jiu-jitsu than you learn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Even if you might learn something and like it, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna try it, and then like you're like, oh, a month, 2 months down the road, you're like, man, what was that move that I fucking it was like, how did I do that?
Yep.
Like, I don't remember how I fucking
and it was
set
so
it up.
good at the time.
Yeah, and it worked so
even
good.
if it was so good.
Yeah.
I feel like there's certain things that talk to you right away. Certain moves that are like,
Yeah.
you see it and you're like, oh, I can use that.
That'll work for
in
my
game.
game.
Yeah, I can do that. And then those are the ones that I go after, and I really try to dig in, and I'll watch videos on it, and watch it from different perspectives.
He had me teach. I didn't think about it. When I came in last week, he was like, "Hey, can you teach the teens?" And I was like, "Oh, the fucking teens!" I was like, all right. I was like, "Sure."
Some of those teens been training longer than us, dude.
Well, I was like, he's like, I was like, "What do you want me to teach them?" And then he was like, "Just from guard, armbar to triangle to omoplata." And I was like, "Okay, cool." So I was like, "All right." So I'm teaching them, and then I'm like, all right, this is what we're going to learn today, blah, blah, blah. We're going to do armbar to triangle to omoplata. And they're like, we can't use omoplata. And I was like, that's right. And I was like, well, this is what he wants you to learn. And then like, you're going to learn it anyways. Yeah. And I was like, don't finish it. I'm like, we're just going to get to the omoplata. We're not trying to finish it. I just want you to learn to set it up. And that was it. And then like, so we're drilling it, whatever. And they're getting it down. And then at the end, I was like, everyone good? Yeah, and then we're getting ready to roll. And I'm like, all right, remember, you're not allowed to use it. They're like, why did we learn it? I'm like, you have, and then it's.
Eventually you'll use it.
Well, not only that, it goes to like, there's certain techniques that I'm not good at, like berimbolo. I'm not really good at it.
Well, I wonder if you could still, like, let's say you did omoplata just as a sweep. But
yeah.
Still,
I don't know, kids, they can't do it at all. Not at all.
You go for it, you set up, and that's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, but my point was like, you're going to learn a lot of things that you may never use in your own game.
Oh, yeah.
But you need to know it because when someone does it to you, you need to be able to recognize, oh, this is what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
This is what they're going to do. That's like when you roll with certain people, like Kyle. You go for something, he already knows what the fuck you're going to do.
Yeah.
He knows the move.
He's reading your mind.
Yeah, he knows like, oh, he's setting this up. He's setting that up. And that's a big part of it is like, you may not use that in your game, but you need to know how to recognize it because then you got to learn the defense to it. Yeah, how to defend it.
Or at least know this is what's coming.
How to break the let me stop their setup. Let me break them to not even get the setup and make a move to something else.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think going back to what you were saying about the basics of the techniques. And how you've been focusing on the connection and everything. I've been focusing on the same thing, but the grips specifically, what I grip and where I grip. So like I found that if I have two sleeves, game over.
Yeah,
like you're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Like I can just pull you up and sweep you and do whatever.
Yep. That's probably my favorite grip. The one that I struggle with is breaking grips. I struggle with breaking grips. And like I was trying to break Kyle's grip the other day.
Oh,
and I just couldn't do it. But then he was like, you're doing it wrong. I'm like, am I?
Because you weren't pulling and pushing.
So I was pushing this way.
Yeah.
And he goes, no, you're supposed to push. No. Well, up or down, but towards your gi. So my gi's here, right? You get the material fabric here, and I'm pushing this way. He's like, you're pushing my hand deeper into the gi. You need to push it away so it slides out of the gi. And I was like, son of a bitch. Because I'm always like, and I'm like, fuck it. So I like a lot of times I'll say I'm horrible at breaking grips.
Yeah.
Like I don't ever fight them because I can never break people's fucking grips unless it's like something where like I can like shoulder and chuck their hand off. I'll usually instead of breaking it, I'll come on top and then get my elbow inside, so it basically nullifies it, and they can't really like use it for much.
Do you know what's been really good? lately I've been trying to get the Thursday classes, the no-gi. Man,
Dude,
Chris's class.
I watched that. I watched his last video. I'm like,
yeah,
that's
I
crazy.
highly recommend his class. For stand-up, it's wrestling, but it's wrestling for jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And if you ever rolled with him, you know,
Yeah.
like this dude is legit.
Yeah.
And the way he teaches it, you can you know how you can tell when somebody knows what the fuck they're doing,
yeah.
what they're saying, like deeply.
Yeah.
You can tell when he teaches a technique. It's like he knows the ins and outs of everything.
Yeah.
About
the
it.
why and
Yeah.
why it's done this way.
Yeah. So,
I think that's a big part as like you get higher in your jiu-jitsu journey is, and it goes back to like we were talking about learning like a basic armbar, and as you go deeper and deeper, you have to start understanding why you do certain things.
Yeah.
Not just how to do it,
Yeah.
but why you do it. Why do you put your weight here?
Yep.
Why do you shift your weight this way? Why do you grab this grip here? Because that helps you, I think, make it muscle memory. And not only muscle memory, you understand like if I don't do it this way, it's not going to work. And there's certain moves that like there's always moves that you're going to learn and you have to adjust it for yourself,
Yeah.
but there's
if you know the principle.
Yeah, and there's core principles to
Yeah.
it that will never change. It have to be that way for it to work, where then you can adjust around those core principles
And
to
you
make it work for
can't
you.
learn those principles right away. Like I feel like it's difficult to, like you have to experience it. So there's like a process probably, right? Like I'm just
Yeah.
spitballing here, but it's probably like, okay, you see it, and then now you do it, and then you experience it, and then you go through it, and you kind of like adjust to it, and then you know, okay, like let's say for example, fighting grips, the principle is you want to have the controlling grips, like the inside position or whatever.
Yeah.
So like if you're just waiting and you're letting them get inside position, you're down.
Yeah,
Like,
you're already late.
technically behind.
You're already late, yeah.
So I mean, yeah, the basics and the class was the stuff that he taught in no-gi. This is where I was going with it.
Effect.
It translates to
Yeah.
the gi shit, dude. Like standing up, I'll get it's just like a
Underhooks.
basic underhook and like not even a deep one. I would get deep, and he's like, yeah, you can do that, but then now you're in danger of getting swept.
Now you're locked in.
Yeah,
with them.
you're in danger of
connected
getting
to them.
hip tossed or something, or like single
Yeah.
legged or whatever. So like just kind of like stay far away. So you basically just have the palm on their lat,
Yeah.
like that, and you're far away. And then he's like, just shuck the arm over and dude.
Oh, like a duck under?
Yeah, it's like a duck under.
Yeah.
Something so simple and so like basic.
Yeah.
It's so effective, and it's like, man, just learning that it helps out so much.
Yeah, I know. Like when I've been focusing on things, that's been I've noticed a change in the way I approach things now. Is obviously I'm not saying I know everything, but I feel like I'm comfortable with enough
A lot of
techniques. Yeah,
positions,
where
yeah.
now when I'm trying things, like I'll attack it. Like I'll go after white belts with certain moves.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, all right, and trying to get the technique down because I was trying it on everybody, and it was never working. And then I get frustrated. I'm like, well, fuck it, this doesn't work. It doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
And what I'm finding is if I can go after like a white belt and then go after blue belts and then work my way up and refine the technique so that I
That's
learn.
what you're doing. It's
so
like
I learn where am I making a mistake? If I can't get it on a white belt, why isn't it working? All right.
Yeah.
What do I need to adjust here? Am I missing a connection? Do I need to get closer? And then I'll like get it and I'm like, all right, that worked. So then I'll like the next time I roll with someone else is a little like a blue belt, man. I'm like, all right, let me try it on this guy, and then because they're gonna give me a little bit harder time, and so.
And then the different weights, like a blue belt that's 280 is different than a blue belt that's 150 pounds.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
like-
yeah. Or tall.
Yep.
And so, so that's been my approach on certain things that I'm trying is like.
It's like a sieve technique, dude. Like you're throwing your technique through the white belt sieve, and then you sprinkle out all the good shit comes out, and then the blue belt one.
That's a good analogy. Yeah,
that's what it feels like.
Yeah, just kind of and it refines it as you go down deeper and deeper to where now
get that
you can
gold
use it.
at
Yeah,
the bottom, dude.
And now
Yeah,
you can use it. So,
Yep.
like I even tried it on Omar. It did not fucking work. And then my girl recorded and I watched it and I was like, man, that was fucking horrible. Like it was.
I look like a freaking white belt.
Yeah, I was like, that was so bad. And then I was like, all right. And that's when I was like, I need to start like go back and try it and refine it before I really try to execute it. And then like this week I've been working on like it sucks, but I've been working on like my escapes and my bottom game and like trying to get comfortable more proficient at escaping, because I don't go for a lot of submissions unless like there's certain ones I go for, but like I don't normally go for arm bars. I don't normally go for triangles.
Definitely not triangles for me.
And there's certain
mounted one. I like the mounted triangle. I can get it because you don't have to close. You don't have to close it
all
the way.
Yeah.
You're just basically leaning
top,
over.
Yeah. But I feel like, and I'm just repeating what a bunch of people have said, but like if I can get really good at escaping and comfortable, like I know like if I miss this and I get swept or something, I'll be able to. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. I'll be able to get back out and get into that position again, or get into a different position again. Yeah. And so. But it sucks, man. It sucks.
You put yourself in those awkward positions.
And then you don't want to look stupid because like some white belt has your back, and I'm like, well, fuck, this is what happens. I'm like, but that's it. Like,
that's how you learn. For
sure,
so
dude. I'm like, I'll let someone take my back, and I'm like, all right, let me try to get out. What can I do from here? Because my back escapes suck too.
Dude, there's those times where you get caught, dude. I remember one time, I was going with he doesn't roll with us anymore, but he was we were both blue belts. And no, I just got my purple. He was still blue, and then so I'm like, all right, let me just let him. I let him kind of work a little bit. He gets past, and he gets like a baseball bat kind of choke.
Yeah.
But he was on top, and he passes with it, and I went out, dude. Like for a split second. Like,
oh shit!
I've
never had that.
Yeah.
Almost, but never.
It was like in between going out and not, but enough to where I snapped out of it, and I didn't know what happened.
Yeah.
But he obviously didn't think I was out because he kept going.
Yeah.
But then I got up and I got in butterfly guard somehow. Somehow I was in butterfly guard. That's where I woke up.
Yeah.
And I was like, I mumbled some shit like, oh man, that was a close one or some shit. And he was like, what? And I was like, I don't know. And just kept fucking going. But he got me, dude. I was fucking out.
I don't remember what I got caught in. I got caught in something, and I just remember like I just started hearing like my sound got really muffled.
Yep.
And
then your vision
and
starts
then, then it started, and I was like, "Oh shit!" I was like, "Oh, this is happening." I was like, "Ah," that was the closest I ever got.
Mm-hmm. I would way rather get choked than any other joint lock.
I've only had one time where it was like, it was scary, and it was fucking Kyle. He got my back, and he got me flat, but he crossed my arms a certain way. And he had his arms here, and so it was even like making more pressure, and my hands were trapped, and he had my feet hooked, so my feet weren't on the mat, so I couldn't. There was no way. There was no way I could tap. Like that, There was no way that I could tap with my hands. There was no way that I could tap with my feet.
And your mouth is covered.
My mouth wasn't covered, but the pressure was like so fucking much that I almost I couldn't even breathe anymore.
He's like an
and like my very last breath, I was like that, because there was no way I would have been able to tap.
Dude.
And I was like, if it gets any further and I pass out, I can't tap and I can't talk.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's nothing I can fucking do,
it's
and
over.
he's not gonna
Checkmate,
know.
Dude.
Yeah.
Checkmate.
But I was like, that was the one time, and I was like, it kind of gave me his relation. There's certain positions where like, dude, if you get caught in some position, you can't tap, you can't talk, you can't do anything, and you're just like.
That's why I like that Hickson choke, dude.
Which one?
The one where you're in top, like S mount or technical mount, and then you figure 4, trap the knees, and I'll flatten them out and kind of roll them over, so their arms are trapped like this, and I'm on their back, and they're on the mat like facing down like this, and then you just.
Oh, then you just
So they can't tap. They're just like this,
Yeah.
They panic before I even get the arm through.
You panic. Yeah, it's a very panicking. It's a very claustrophobic experience when that happens.
I was going with. It was like a couple Sundays ago, and Brittany was teaching a technique, and she was showing it on me. I was like having her showing it to the class, and then, dude, it was so tight. I forget what it was like a bow and arrow. It was a bow and arrow choke. It was so tight when she just got it in, I was going out instantly. Like when you pinch the water hose, that's what happened, dude.
Oh shit.
I was like sitting there, and you're
trying to let her teach
she's
it.
Walking through it, and I'm sitting there and I'm like fucking tapping, and I'm like, oh, like she kind of like was like, really? Like, what's going on? So she kept going with it, and I'm like, no, seriously, like this is I'm about to go out, dude. Like it was I started getting tingly in my fingers and my toes, and I was like, oh shit.
Yeah,
It's
that's
just,
wild.
if you get it deep enough, man, it's like it does not matter, dude. And she's really good anyway. Her technique is super on point.
There's a few people I've seen that are, I mean, watching them, like, man, their technique is just like getting better. And
but it's because they're there all the time. That's what it is, dude. It's like consistency.
That's the only thing. That's the thing with jiu-jitsu, and we talk about all the time, is like there's no off season.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
If you take time off, everyone's still getting better.
Yep.
You know, if you take a month off and you come back, the person you used to maybe destroy, that's been coming 5 days a week, twice a day, their game is gonna fucking go, and you're next you can roll them. You're like, oh shit, like now
it's
I'm
weird.
fighting.
I try to think about like what it is, right? It's obviously the cardio aspect. If you're not doing anything outside of the gym, cardio wise, and you just come back after a couple weeks, you're gonna die. There's no getting around it. But what else is it as far as like, do you get worse?
I don't think you get worse. I just think their skill level is progressing, and they're getting better.
That fast? 2 weeks?
Well, 2 weeks is not. I'm talking about
let's say a month.
I'm saying a month. In 2 weeks, I don't think you're gonna fall.
It's just I think
that far behind.
I think it really
your cardio's gonna be fucked.
Yeah, it really has something to do with the like, just like with how they say with like boxing or fighting, MMA, like your familiarity in the ring or in a sparring situation. The only way you get that is by actually sparring.
Yeah.
Like you can't just like
watch
pretend
videos.
or watch it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like drill or.
Well, there's a lot of timing involved with it. Like when I came, when I came back after this 2 weeks off, I was like going for things, and I was like, man, my timing is like way off. I was like going for something, I was like missing it, and it was just my timing was off. Or I wasn't waiting long enough for them to react, and I was like going for something before they reacted, or like, and I was missing things. I was like, man,
it's just the way your mind is working. Like things start clicking the longer you go, the more consistent you are. You know, things are like, it just seems like it's easier. You know,
I don't know about easier, but
like you can flow better.
Yeah,
you know, like you're kind of just you're in that mindset.
Yeah,
like flowing. Today I was going with a newer guy, and he's a Marine too. He's brand new. He just showed up, and Omar was like, he's brand new. Like he had the loaner gi and everything. He's like, first day, just movement with him. As soon as I pull guard, I can pull guard on him. I'm not gonna do anything crazy. As soon as I pull guard, he's like Toriando. Like he's got.
Well, they do the.
I didn't know he was a Marine at first.
Oh.
So like,
yeah,
neither did Omar.
Yeah.
Right. And then so like we're going. And I'm like, all right, so I pull him in my guard, and he's like putting the elbows in, and he's like doing all the things, and I'm like, this is not your first day, dude. Like, this is
if they put their elbows on me, it's game over. I'm like, okay, we're gonna turn it up now. Like that's I can't exactly stand that shit.
Yeah, so he told me that right away, and he's watching us. I can see him watching us, and then I sweep him, and I get on top and mount, and I'm like just smothering him, and Omar was like, he's like, it's the first day.
He wants him to come back.
He's like, it's the first day. I'm like, no, it's not. And he's like, okay. I was like, dude, this motherfucker wanted it.
Yeah.
And he was like, you know, white belt, Marine.
Yeah.
Like he was.
But he's
full force.
They've done that whole combative thing, don't they? They go through that program, so they do some basic grappling.
The guard, passing, breaking guard, and just the basics. Yeah. So yeah, he knew something, dude. And I was like, and after the roll, I was like, it's not your first day. I was like, it's your first day here, but it's not your first rodeo, huh? And he's like, yeah, Marine Corps. I'm like, oh, I see that. Yeah, that makes sense, dude. But yeah, man, it's always good to like. I definitely told him too. I was like, hey, like, I kind of like insinuated like you're not gonna get anywhere by going all crazy with it. Number one, you're gonna lose unnecessary energy, like just for your game.
Yeah.
Like just calm down. The grips, like you'll learn all that, you know, like, but he was just like, I'm talking like I could feel him shaking when he was like holding in any position. And like, you're gonna wear yourself out. And like in the long run, you're gonna get hurt, dude. Like he's probably a little younger than us, but like if you're in.
Well, and you're just gonna keep pissing people off.
Yeah.
And they're just gonna go hard on you all
I didn't say that, but I was kind of like leaning towards that. Like, yeah, for the long run, you want to just kind of like learn.
Yeah.
Like, you know, not go too crazy with it. It's hard though, because there are those times when you turn it on, but the only way you know is with experience, right? Like there's certain people that you kind of we already know that they only float roll.
Yeah.
Or there's certain people that that turn it on, so it's going to be a
battle. Yeah.
So I don't know. You just got to kind of feel it out. But I think it's kind of helpful, and I don't know if people appreciate it or if they're like, who the fuck is this guy? But I always just let it be known, like, hey man, this is kind of like how we do things around here. Like as far as like
we're training.
We're it's not ACC. Yeah. It's like we're not. It's not competition right here.
I know John Danaher and them, and they've talked about like no one's going to remember your accomplishments
in the gym.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like you're here to train and learn, and there's going to be times that you train hard.
Yeah.
You're going to have. Like,
there's the comp classes.
Or like when we have a big tournament coming up and a bunch of people competing, you show up to class. It's fucking on.
It's on.
Like for 6 weeks, it's just fucking murder.
Yep.
I remembered. I don't remember. I think it was World Masters or one of the big tournaments we were all getting ready for, and there was like blue belts and like some white belts, and they were just like, "What the fuck is going on?" Because everybody, because everybody was just like every roll was just hard, and they would just be like, "Dude, what?" They're like, they could tell. They were like
something in the air.
Yeah, they're like, why? Like something's different. Like why is everyone like trying? I'm like, it's a tournament.
Yeah.
This is time to step it up. This is where you start training hard. Like you get your hard rolls in, right? You got to roll. Then you're rolling. Every freaking roll, you're like, there's no breaks. It's just roll, and every roll is hard.
I think the same thing applies with like training for combat, like in the Marine Corps, that does for Jiu-Jitsu, or I'm sure for any kind of combat sport. In the Marine Corps, we trained like simulation shit, like simulation rounds, and we would actually like it was like paintball rounds in an actual gun. So like you simulate combat, and you actually it kind of stings a little bit, but you're not shooting each other with live rounds.
Yeah.
And so it's the same thing in Jiu-Jitsu. It's like you want to train and make it a realistic situation as much as you don't get hurt.
Yeah.
And so I think in Jiu-Jitsu especially, it's just like we're training for, if you're going to compete, then you're going to compete. All you have to do is like a switch that you turn on when it's competing time.
Yeah.
It's not like you're going to all of a sudden fucking
Well, it kind of gets forced.
It
kind of gets forced on you.
Yeah.
Because normally, like, I don't know how your guys' gyms are, but in our gym, like, there's a group of people that compete, and then normally when it's time, when everyone's getting ready, Omar's like, you guys are all in the middle.
Yeah.
And you guys
Shark
don't get
Tank.
out. You guys don't get out.
Yep.
And everyone else is just non-stop. It's boom, boom, one after another. So, yeah, there's a time for that, and then there's a time like when it's just learning, just getting,
Which is the majority of
the
time.
And the thing is, I think another thing with Jiu-Jitsu is not everyone, but a lot of people are hurt.
Yeah.
There's always something hurt.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
so, it's hard to like, I don't think it's good to roll 100% every single time.
No.
So.
It's not sustainable. Mm-mm. Yeah. I mean, even the freak accidents, dude. Like today, I got my foot caught.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I got caught in somebody's, in their pant.
Yeah. You're
and
saying your
heel? Heel hooked me, basically, yeah. I just they were passing, and I got the half guard. My heel got caught in their pant, and as they were passing, luckily he felt it and stopped, but it heel hooked me. And I was just like sitting like, oh, shit. And it's like, you can't, how are you going to account for that,
Yeah.
So if you're going hard every time, it's more likely that that's going to happen. Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
I watched this video. You see a video and you're like, man, why didn't I think of that? That's like a really good idea.
Yeah.
This lady had like all the belts, so it was like white, blue, purple, brown, black, and then she was like walking up. She's like, which belt's the most dangerous?
The white belt.
Yeah. Well, a couple people said black, but most people were like white belt. White belt.
If you know,
white
yeah.
Belt. Yeah. They're like white belt. It's fucking dangerous rolling with them, because exactly what you said, like. The new guy comes in and he's just gonna be spazzy and like you're trying to take it easy, and so I tell my kids, I'm like, if you roll with a new white belt, I tell them don't fucking go easy. At least wait until you get to a good position and then take it easy, because otherwise they're gonna fucking spaz out, they're gonna catch you, and then sometimes I think it's better for someone new to learn, be like, oh, I can't do anything. This shit fucking works, you know. And you kind of put them
in their place,
in their place a little bit, and then
you show them that it works, and then
or show them like, I can do whatever I want, and then then you're like, all right, now you take it easy, and you let them work. But they have that mental note, like, oh, like he could turn it like and change this on me if he wanted to, right? So he's letting me work. Well, because them being spazzies, you get fucking hurt.
And you get that with even there's some blue belts, dude. Like I was saying earlier, there's some blue belts in class that like sometimes it gets a little wild, and you have to turn it up a little bit just to let them know, like, hey. I'm going half speed right now.
Well, I think like we were saying earlier, I think a lot of it has to do with like it's almost time. Was it like 2 more months for promotion? And there's a lot of people that want to prove that they deserve their next belt.
That's weird. I never think about that.
I never think about that. I was trying to stay. I tried to stay in my belt as long as fucking possible.
Just like stay quiet. Like,
I was like, don't promote me. I don't want to be promoted. I don't want to stripe. Like, I was like, I don't want to move up as long as possible. But some people they want the belt. They're chasing the belt instead of like, just go with the journey. Like, just go. You know, you'll get there when you get there. Like, it's something. If you're in it, it's a lifelong thing. Yeah, like you're in it.
For sure, something to be said about maturity level. Like, there's a bunch of younger kids, and I was like that. Yeah, dude. Like, when I was younger, it was just full of piss and vinegar, and you just wanted to go. There's nobody who could tell you to slow down. And it's like, I get it, but also I feel like it's someone's responsibility to let them know, like, hey, man, like we're all here.
Well, I think our gym, is kind of unique because we are mostly. There's a lot of younger kids, or I say kids, but like 20-year-olds, 25-year-olds, but majority of us are all like 30 plus. Yeah. But a lot of the 30 plus guys, they're not fucking like your normal 30-year-olds. No. They're strong, fucking athletic. Yep. And so like, you put a 20-year-old
against Cody,
or someone that's like, you might have more energy than me. But I'm gonna fucking hold you and make you suffer, and then
I'm gonna throw you.
I'm not gonna let you use your energy, and then when I'm done, then I'm gonna tap you, and then
that's pretty much what happened. Yeah,
and the time's gonna be over by then, and I'm like, all right, cool, nice round. Good job.
Yeah.
And that's my goal.
I like so I will say this. I won't say who it was, but I will say that after the whole thing, there's always like that unspoken kind of communication if you've been there long enough. Like, so he went hard. I went harder. He kind of felt it and was like, okay, I get it. Yeah. And then afterwards, it was cool. We bumped hands, and it was like, I understand. Like I feel like there was an understanding as to like, because of his intensity changed afterwards. And then we were both, and then also I kicked back. Yeah. As soon as I was able to control and was like, pretty much just put him where I wanted.
You brought the tone back down.
Yeah. And then it was like, okay, now are we good? Like we're flowing now. And it was like, we're good. Yeah. So and then. I mean, I think there's you can appreciate that. Like, I'm sure he appreciated that I didn't continue to fucking.
Well, I think that's
be mean about it.
I think that's a big. That goes to like martial arts and what it teaches you, as a man or woman. Yeah. About humbleness. Yeah, as a person. About respect. Yeah. And about like you learn those little things, and I think those things apply outside of jiu-jitsu when they talk. There's a lot of times where I hear people like, oh, jiu-jitsu, it'll affect everything in your life. And sometimes you're like, but things like that, like, they do apply because, like, if you go in, like, for me, if I go into a meeting and I go in there fucking blah, 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 I know what's going to happen. Yeah. Like, I've gone to meetings where people are like, they've never dealt with real adversity or someone that can fuck them up. And so they come into the meeting and just like, bah, 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 bah. And then I'm in the meeting and I'm just like, okay, all right. And I'm like going through the process of kind of like you're doing, trying to bring the tone down, trying to calm them, not trying to calm them down, but like basically like, hey, you're not going to, you're not going to fucking, it's not going to happen. Yeah. And then like after the meeting, you know, I'll get their manager or someone else to be like, hey, thank you for like the way you handle that, you know. And a lot of that, you learn that through that process. Like you said, there's no spoken. It's just like you recognize it and you learn it, and that does carry out outside of jiu-jitsu.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Where you can like understand like, oh, there's levels to things, there's escalations to things, how I should carry myself in certain situations. If I bring this intensity, then it's going to raise the level of everyone in the
escalates it.
Exactly.
Yep,
and so you can learn those things. So
dude, recently, I mean, yeah, we talk about like jiu-jitsu as a person, how it transforms you, but also recently my son, he's 5, and he's been training for a couple years now, probably. Like, yeah, he's probably started like at 4, like 3.5, 4 or something. He was really young. But there's been this bully at school, a little girl, that'll just like come up and like punch all these kids. And like, there was a moment where he would come home and tell me about this, and I'm like, the teacher pulled me aside and told me, and I'm like, well, why aren't you, like, you train, right? And then it wasn't until that moment that it kind of like clicked.
Oh yeah.
And I saw it, and then the next day he comes home and he's like, hey, the teacher said I did a good job today. She's like, I did a single leg on that girl that was kicking. I was like, oh man. So he told me the story. I was like, what happened, dude? He's like, well, she came up and she tried to kick me, so I grabbed her leg and I pushed her down or whatever. And then the teacher like pulled them apart, and I'm like, good, like that's what you're supposed to be doing, like. Yeah. But it was for me, it was like interesting and awesome to see.
He forgot that he had this.
He clicked it together. He was like, oh, because I think like maybe where his mind was at.
Fun in jiu-jitsu. Yeah. It's separate than what you're carrying in
real life. Yeah.
But now like, he saw like, oh, I can actually apply this.
Use it in real life. Yeah.
Not just in the class. Yep. Yeah.
Because like we'll mess around at the house and we're like wrestling. And, you know, but yeah, now he saw it. Like I saw that moment where it sparked in his head, and he was like, oh, it's not just training at the gym, it's in real life situation type stuff. And I'm like, man,
that's cool.
That made it worth it.
Well, I think as a parent too, you feel better too. You like.
Yeah, you can protect himself.
Yeah. Like I know I've said it before. Like.
But also as a person, that's where I was going with it. Obviously, this little girl, she's an issue. She's a problem. Like she bullies a bunch of kids. She's 5, dude. It's like, if you're that kind of person, if you're a little kid,
keep going if you don't correct it.
Well, not only that, but it's like, what kind of home does she come from that she has to do that?
Yeah.
It's like, I feel bad for her, but maybe if she had something like jiu-jitsu, she would learn like, this is not how you treat people, you know, like this is. And I'm glad that our kids are in it, and that it builds you as your character as a person, you know, like.
Well, and there's consequences to everything you do.
You learn that I'm not, and that's another thing I told him. I was like, look, it's good that you protected yourself, but don't go looking for a fight.
Yeah.
There's always somebody better than you. That's what I tell him all the time, just to humble him. Like, dude, there's always somebody that could kick your ass. Like, so don't go crazy with it, you know. Like,
yeah.
So.
That's so cool to see them come up at that young.
Yeah. Oh.
I can't imagine how they're gonna be. Like even like Noah and Nathan, they've been. Noah started when he was 12. He's 15 now.
Yeah.
And like I watch him roll. Like,
the other day, I was watching him too.
That's crazy to watch.
It looks effortless, almost. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so like, smooth with a lot of their stuff.
Yeah.
And then it's like. It's just I remember when they started and how. One of the things Omar, because I started and then I was like, nah, you guys are coming. And then, they were super like, they're still quiet and shy, but they were like really timid to do things. And Omar was like, that's going to go away. He's like, trust me.
Yeah.
And then like, sure enough, like more and more I see them doing things like, and it goes back to like what you were saying when you were teaching the girls, like they didn't want to like put pressure and like, that's how they were in the beginning. And now they're just like, no, it's like, this is how it works. And you see them build confidence. You see them be like stand tall, which is, if you're a parent, you watch your kid stand tall is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
To see them like have confidence and like to know that they can take care of themselves. It's a really cool thing to see.
Yep.
And I'm sure you can get that in like other sports and disciplines. But I think jiu-jitsu applies in the sense that like it's just so physical.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, like you said about being timid, like by default, you got people on top of you and sweating all over you, and like, so you're not going to be timid after, if you stick with it. You're just used to. And also, I mean, you could tell with the white belts or anybody that comes in that's never done any kind of combat sports, when you get close or on top of them, it's almost like they're like
uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's like they don't know what to do. That's how that's how Roxanne was, initially. But it's like it's so good to know what it feels like to have somebody
trying to
on
hurt
top
you?
of you,
Yeah, trying to hurt you,
and then trying to get out of that and figuring out what you would do.
Yeah,
because the last place you want to be is in that situation without any experience. You know what I mean? Like that's always been
well,
my.
That's like what Jocko. He had this podcast and he was talking about jiu-jitsu and he was saying like if someone tries to punch you, you can run away, you can walk away. If someone's like using their voice and whatever, it's like cool, whatever, man. I can just walk. You can walk away. He said, but if someone grabs you, it's like now you're in my world. Now you can't leave. Yeah, now you can't leave, and you have to know like how to handle that.
Yeah.
Like, if someone grabs you, you need to know how to handle that because you can't run away if someone holds you. You can't hold away if someone grabs you.
And there's a shock factor also. If you've never been if someone's never manhandled you, when somebody actually does, you're gonna be like,
well, that's something that I talk about a lot, and I know people are gonna give shit, but Henner Gracie, they have their academy. They talk a lot about police and getting police involved. And even Tom DeBlas does a lot of police stuff. But if you watch a lot of police interactions, you can tell they don't train because when they get into a physical altercation, they're super panicky,
yelling,
and they're they get hyper aggressive. And I think a lot of it comes down to like you watch, they have the situation in control, but they're not used to that level of adrenaline dump. They're not used to that type of altercation all the time. Yeah. And so even when they're in control, they're still hyper aggressive. Like I remember I watched a video where this cop was having trouble with this guy, and this jiu-jitsu black belt came out and helped him. And then the cop was like trying to basically like ram his fucking knee on top of his head, and like and the dude was like, "Hey,
I got this."
He's like, "Look, he's like, look, we have him in control. Calm down." And the cop was like, you could tell he's like shaking.
Dude, yeah.
And the dude, the jiu-jitsu, he's like, "Oh, I do this every day. Like I'm not, I'm used to that. I don't get that. I don't get that spike of energy. I don't have that adrenaline dump." And that's another thing that I don't think people talk about enough is like you said, when someone grabs you, if you've never, you're like, oh shit, your adrenaline spikes and like your fight or flight kicks in and like all these things are going. But if you're doing it every fucking day, you deal with that adrenaline every day. You deal with someone trying to suffocate you every day.
All it really takes is a few times, dude. I remember we did this kind of training for this academy that I did. It's a security job. And this guy would get in, the instructor would get in, like they call it a spear suit. And it's basically like a fully padded suit, but all the joints are maneuverable. And he's got a helmet, headgear. And you get put into this room, they turn the lights off, and they basically turn the lights on, and the guy's in front of you, and the first thing is the right hook, and like it's a full fight from the beginning. And you have to learn, like you're like, oh shit. So I get in there, the light turns on, and boom, I get knocked cold clocked, dude. I'm like, oh shit, and it's a fight, and I take him down, and I already knew a little bit, but that kind of training, that shock, like it's invaluable, and you can't get that until you actually do something like that.
And consistently.
Yeah.
I thought I had heard that there was like some state or some city that was like requiring all their police officers to be a blue belt, and then they had been doing it a while. And then when they looked at their like the numbers of like police shootings, or like complaints for like being over aggressive, excessive forcing, like all those numbers go down. They were just dropping because they're all getting trained properly, and they were all able to handle the situations and handle the adrenaline dump.
Dude, I love watching it. I'll get caught in those rabbit holes all day, watching those videos of like the cops that know jiu-jitsu, and I'm like, that's fucking badass.
I don't want to say like I'm an expert in it, because I'm not, because when you bring, obviously they're handling someone that might have a gun, they might have a weapon, and that changes fucking everything, right? But the situations that can be handled,
before it gets
there, it's like those should be in their training like all the time. Dude. I have a friend. I've known him for a long time, and then like he messaged me one day and he's like, dude, I started training jiu-jitsu. We were talking, and he was like asking me about it, and I was like, yeah, man, I'm training, blah blah blah. So he started training, and he's been training probably almost 2 years now. But now he's like going through the process to become a police officer and stuff. And I'm like, dude, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Like,
you're already a leg up.
Yeah, you're gonna have a leg up
Yep.
in that sense. And
I think it should be mandatory, dude.
I
think purple belt, man. Fuck.
Yeah, I don't even want to. I don't want to call him out, but we have a police officer at our school, and I talked to him, and I was like, how does this? I was like, how does it affect your job? And he goes, dude.
I ask him all the time.
I was like, I was like, how often do you use it? He's like, all the time.
Yeah. I asked him what the move that he uses the most is, and it's just basically wrist control and like some kind of trip or foot sweep or something. It's like.
Well, he also said that like,
shit.
mind you, it's not like he's. If you were to see him you would probably be like, yeah, he does have that intimidation.
Yeah.
Like he can definitely intimidate.
He looks like a bulldog.
Yeah.
Dude. He's just like.
But at the same time, he said the confidence when he walks into a situation, like he's like they recognize the confidence. He
probably brings everything down as soon as he walks in the room.
He says they recognize the confidence, and a lot of times everything just like, oh, you know.
Yeah.
And even a big guy, if you don't have that training, you might still escalate things, or you might not bring that level of confidence in of like, I know what I am capable of doing.
Yeah.
You know. So
could you imagine being out there, some poor fuck trying to mouth off to this guy, and it's like.
I think he still goes there. We had another. I haven't seen him in a minute. There was like a white belt, and he was a cop, and I rolled with him. It was like his third week or whatever, and I rolled with him, and I just kind of, I didn't put it on him, but like I fucking kept sweeping him, and like I didn't tap him, I just kept kind of sweeping him, let him get to a position, then I sweep him and get out of it, and put him in side control, and like north south, and then like afterwards, he like, it was like towards the end of the class, he was just sitting there,
contemplating life.
Yeah, he was just sitting there. I'm like, you good, man? He's like, I've been a cop for however long he said. And he's like, it's fucking scary. And I was like, what? He's like, the fact that, like, if I would have ran into anybody that knew what you know.
Here,
yeah. He's like, I'd be fucked. He's like, I'd be dead. He's like, I've been in so many situations where he's had physical altercations. And if any of them knew any of this stuff, he's like, he's like, I might not be
that
here.
Effective, yeah.
But he was like, literally, he was sitting there, and I could see, like, I thought, like, I was like, man, there's something wrong with it. But he was like, he was going through this in his head, like, man.
In real time, yeah. He was like, oh shit.
And he was like, dude, like, and then he was saying it. I was like, man, that's, like, that's when I started kind of thinking more about it. I was like,
well, it's also crazy. The thing that was interesting to me was that it's all the basic moves that work. Like the foot sweeps and the trips and like just wrist control. Yeah. Like if somebody comes up to me, that's the first thing I'm gonna do. I'm gonna just, hey, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah.
Once you have their wrists, I mean, I'm gonna do whatever I want with you. So it's like, the basic concepts of.
Well, if you look at the Gracie, like
self-defense,
the self-defense stuff.
Yep.
That's all that is.
Yep.
That's all that is. It's just a very basic, and a lot of people talk shit about it.
It's what works.
But it's like,
unless you're going against a fucking MMA fighter or something, like against a normal person,
it all works.
Yeah, dude,
it all fucking works.
It's gonna work.
Even if it is a little older, but it's gone through its trials and tribulations. It's gone through the fire.
Yep.
It's gone through all that to where like this is effective against. It's not supposed to be effective against, like you said, fucking some world champ, some boxer, some fucking. But your typical person that just doesn't train, is drunk and causing a disturbance, like this stuff works against them. And like you said, just the very basic stuff, like wrist control, a quick foot sweep, like how many people you come into the training and they cross your feet all the time?
Yeah.
All the time. You're like, don't cross your feet.
Yep.
Don't cross your feet.
Stop one of them and they're going over.
It's like, don't cross your feet. Don't cross your feet. So it's like, that gets drilled into you all the time, but they don't know that. So like they're gonna be like, oh, then boom, down. You're down. You finish. You know. Yeah,
it's all the basic techniques that work in real life, man. I mean, it's like, it doesn't. It's not like like other. There's some other kind of things like techniques that are a little more advanced.
Yeah.
That
more for competition.
Yeah, you're not gonna berimbolo on the street.
Pull guard.
Yeah, you're not gonna pull guard on the street. Like, but if you get the basics. The principles are.
That's what I always think it's funny because it's like people talk shit, and they're like Jiu-Jitsu, like what are you gonna pull guard in the street? Or like, what if I try to poke your eyes? I was like, I can do that too.
Yeah, you forget that I also have
Yeah,
fingers.
I
so
also
like-
can poke your eyes. I can also punch you in the face,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you're not gonna pull guard in fucking the street. You're gonna go to your wrestling. You're gonna go to your single leg. You're gonna take their back and throw them on the ground like a foot sweep. Like you're not like. But you're right. There is a lot of things that are very specific to competition.
Yep, it's a different thing.
Yeah.
It's a different thing for sure.
But some people try to say that like you can't do the competition stuff won't help you in self defense. But
that's not
I
true.
I don't
No.
agree with that. I think
Even
just training jiu-jitsu,
Yeah.
whether if you go to a sports one, you're going to learn so much in the fundamentals
Yeah.
that are all going to work on the street.
even
you're
just
not
the
going to bear bolo.
body
You're not going to.
positioning, you know, like how just to feel what it feels like to move somebody's body a way that you want it. Like I always tell, you know, anybody that's learning, they always ask about the single leg that I do, and it's basic, dude. I just fucking pull them into me, and when they step, I grab that leg that they step with, and it's like that setup. It's the basic shit, you know. If I want you to come into me, you have to learn that you got to pull them into you, you know, to get that,
Make them move,
make them react.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, that shit works in real life too, man. Yeah. I always say like I always in my mind like go through scenarios and like what would happen here and there. That's just how I think, you know. Like even if I'm like out in the street or something,
Yeah.
like what if this big motherfucker started going crazy? What would I do? And it always goes to the basic shit. I'm like, I'm gonna close the distance. I'm gonna wrap around them. I'm gonna take them to the ground. You know, like maybe get to the side or to the back so they can't punch me.
wrap, then
Yeah,
just sit,
take them to the
wait.
ground, wait there.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, that's the basic shit. I'm not thinking, oh, I'm gonna lasso this motherfucker out. Like, you know, like it's not gonna happen.
Yeah, and it's like I watched this guy in like a basketball court, and this dude was like trying to bully him or some shit like that. And like,
Oh, I did see that.
And
One.
he
He
ended
took
up-
him down.
Yeah, and then he got him like in a heel hook or something
oh,
like that.
yeah,
And he was like, if you don't fucking stop, I'm gonna
snap
rip your
this shit.
fucking knee off,
Yeah.
and you're not gonna be able to walk forever. Like you're done playing basketball. And like he was like,
His boys were like, all right, come on, man, you're good.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, man, it's like, and that's still tight. I think kind of like a sport.
Yeah,
Like,
definitely.
you
You
know,
wouldn't.
but
Ideally, you wouldn't do that.
Yeah, but
because but he caught it.
yeah, he caught it,
Yeah.
and he kept the distance. The guy couldn't hit him, and he.
Also, he was aware. Like if anybody was,
surroundings.
there was
Yeah,
nobody
yeah,
behind
yeah,
him.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
if someone could have stopped him if they wanted to. Like not ideal, but he was in control
Yeah.
and nothing was happening. So yeah, it
Yeah,
was good.
that's just crazy. I don't know. I just I was telling my girl the other day that I was talking about jiu-jitsu, and I was like, man, I'm so fucking addicted to this shit. And I was like, it's not something I thought. Like I always wanted to do jiu-jitsu, and I knew it was cool. And then like the more I get into it, because right now it's like at a point where like the amount that we're gonna learn of new techniques is like getting smaller.
It's narrowing down. Yeah.
And a lot of us are working on honing in our skills, and like you said, setting up why you do what you do, and how to set it up, and how to make someone get into a position to catch something, right? And so it's like it's just more and more addicting. The more the rabbit hole
Dude,
I go down.
The more questions you ask, the more questions that
Yeah,
appear.
and then,
it's
like- And then like I was telling my girl, I was like, when I first started jiu-jitsu, when I looked at jiu-jitsu, if I were to put if I was gonna draw jiu-jitsu, it would be like armbar, side control, guard, blah 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 blah, and it would just be like a little
Basic
big
positions,
square.
yeah.
And I'm like, now it's like when I look at jiu-jitsu, it's like, all right, here's guard, and then from guard I can go to armbar,
Yeah,
I can go
transitions.
triangle. You got the fucking flower sweep. You got collar chokes, and then it's like, oh, if I catch the flower sweep from here, then I can position to fucking
Omoplata
mount, and
or
from
some
mount
shit,
I can
yeah.
go, and it ends up more looking like a tree.
Yeah.
Now, like just every original base, like foundation movement is a tree of endless other fucking movements
Yeah.
that can happen. now.
Literally endless.
Yeah, and it's
combinations.
like, and it's like now when I look at it, I'm like, the fuck, it's like a roadmap. Like
Yeah,
I'm like,
dude.
there's just so much and somewhere you can go, you know. And then when I didn't understand is like understanding like when I first started, I just couldn't understand when people would be like you learn this move, and then from here you need to have a minimum of 2 that you really like to go to A or B. If A doesn't work, go to B, and then when you get to B, you hit B, that one works. Now you need another move that works from A or B from that move. And like I was like, man, how do like I was like, how do you fucking think that far ahead? And and it's not thinking that far ahead. It's just knowing like if I get this, I get
having
this,
the understanding.
I get that. Yeah. And then now like the further down, I'm like I was telling my girl, I was like, I can kind of see like it's just weird how it just changes, and it just gets more addicting, and you just want to learn more, and you want to keep going, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that means we love it. I mean, I'm the same way, dude. It's funny, like I'll be at home and right after class, I'll shower up and put the kids to bed, and then I'm right on my phone or on the tablet.
Dude, I have so
watching
many
jiu-jitsu
videos. On my phone.
I'm like, fuck.
I have so many videos on my phone. I have have a folder of just moves that that I want to eventually like learn,
try out,
and try out. And it's just like, and this is sometimes before class. I'm like, all right, what am I like? I'll be like, what am I gonna try today?
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to hit this today. I'll work towards hitting that.
I try to keep it in the same vein of what I normally do. But sometimes, I see things that I'm like, ooh, that might. And then sometimes I'll learn things like.
The reason I like it is because it might be in a position that I'm not normally in.
Yeah.
And so now I have to force myself to make it to that position to even attempt it. And so even to get to try it, I have to go through all this shit just to get to the position to try it.
Yeah.
And so that's why I like trying it that way, because it forces me outside of my box of my game, and it makes me do different shit. I fucking 9 times out of 10 I don't fucking make it there, but it makes me play a different game, and then I might learn something.
More,
I might think or move differently, or like, what if I do it this way to get past? And so that's why I usually pick a video before class. I'll look at it, I'm like, I'm gonna try to get to this today, and like if I don't get it, I don't get it, but it makes me like step out of my game, because you easily you can get locked into a game
because you're so good at already what you do. Yeah, you're like,
and then all of a sudden you're like 6 months down the road and you're like, fuck.
Everybody knows what you do.
Well, everyone knows what you do, but then now it's like, man, I'm really not that good at side control, or I'm really really bad at like getting out of someone's guard, and you're like, I haven't worked on that. I've never allowed myself to get there because this game works so well. So it's like that like helps me not do that. But you do have to catch yourself from getting like.
Do you keep a log or anything? Like write shit down? Or?
No. I tried it when I very first started, but it was just too much.
Extra work.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck.
Yeah,
I tried to too, yeah. What I will do though is if I have a plan, or especially lately since I've been kind of like teaching, I'll write down the moves, like whatever I'm going to teach or whatever my plan is, and I'll be like, just bullet points.
Yeah.
Like, okay, this is the move, this is the position.
Here's some key things.
This is what I want to do, and this is how I'm going to teach it, or like step by step. And then so I kind of like when I write it down, it kind of like records better in my mind. Even though I already know it, it somehow helps me understand it better, and then I can pick at it and be like, oh, well, why do I do this here at this stage? Why don't I just move it here, and then I'll be in a better position efficient. Or something? Yeah. So it's kind of like
I think teaching in general is super helpful towards your own game.
Oh yeah,
because definitely. You even doing like the very basics, you get better at it, and then you remember those little details and like those little things.
Yep.
So I think teaching in itself makes you better at jiu-jitsu.
You take it for granted when you already know it, and then you might miss some shit because you don't practice it all
or
the
they'll
time.
ask a question like, why do we like why do you have to do it this way?
Why do I have to hold this sleeve?
Yeah, why do I have to hold this sleeve? Or like, why don't I just? I mean, sometimes just like because I fucking because this is what you're learning today. No, but. Yeah, they'll ask a question that you have to answer. Like, this is why it's done.
You're trying to break the base, or you're trying to whatever.
Yeah, you're trying to exactly break their base, or what do they call it? Off balance them.
Yep.
To get their momentum. Things like that. Yep. Like I was watching Michael Pixley, whatever he was showing. He was showing a single leg, and what he was saying is like when he was showing the single leg, he's like. You're gonna try to pick this leg up. It's gonna be heavy. Just going for the single isn't gonna work. You have to bump them to get them off balance. So now you can get the single leg. So give them a little bump. Say now they're off balance. Now you're gonna be able to pick up that leg. Versus if they're planted and
you're just grabbing,
you're just like, oh fuck, I'm not gonna be able to lift this leg up. But if If you do it and bump them at the same time, now that leg is just going to come right up. And those are those little things,
The details,
those little details that you start picking up.
Yep. The other day we were teaching butterfly sweep, and it's one of those basic ones, but there's so many details in it that make it effective. And one of them that it's kind of hidden when you teach the technique is that that foot that goes underneath, that goes across, and the one that you jack off, like the one that you use like a jack.
That you push off the ground, like you turn your toes into the ground.
Yeah, that's why I said that, because I was like trying to make the analogy, like imagine this foot is like your jack, right?
Yeah.
And you're using that to push off of it and to get them over,
to get
up
more
and over.
leverage, yeah.
So it's like those little.
Well, that's when Omar does it. I like when he'll show it, but he'll like have no one on him.
Yep.
And then you can clearly see.
Yep. And he'll roll on the shoulder.
Yeah, he'll roll on the shoulder, and you can see how his foot goes from like sideways to his toes are now, and he's using the leverage of his toes to drive and bring that leg over.
If you don't do that one thing, they smash you. They'll smash down, and then it's over.
Or people fall back.
Yeah.
Or they fall back. It's like, no, go to your shoulder.
Go to your side, yeah.
I see that all the time, too. Like, they always fall back. I'm like, no, you got to go to your shoulder. Don't fall back, go to your shoulder.
But teaching it has made it so much more, even if I already knew that, it's like, yeah, duh.
Well, yeah, it drives it into your brain so that when you actually in the middle of a roll. I've noticed two things for me is like, if I'm in a chill roll, I think more.
Yes.
And if I'm in a roll where I know it's hard, it's more instinct.
Yep.
And I tend to, I do shit, and I'm like, what the fuck?
How did I do that? Yeah.
It's just instinct. My body just reacts.
Yeah.
Like I've been in rolls where like I was rolling with Kyle the other day, and he was like, "Oh man, you did good recovering," because he tried to sweep me, and I was like, as I was going up, I was like, boom, and I based off the fucking mat, and I was it was just like boom, based off the mat. I was able to like balance myself, recover, and we come back down, and it was like, if I'm in a position where someone was like, where I was just chilling with someone, I probably wouldn't have tried to like defensively. I would have just rolled with it and like whatever. But like when you get into those battles, where you're just like, you don't have time to think, and for some reason, I feel like I do better in situations where I
more
don't
intuitive,
think. Because I've even asked my kids. I've watched my kids roll sometimes, and I'm like, I was like, do you think? Because I watch them, I'm like, dude, that's fucking crazy. Like sometimes they do stuff, I'm like, that was so clean. And I was like, did you set that up? Think, you know? They're like, I don't think when I roll. They just roll, and I'm like, and that's a really. There's probably good and bad for both, but I think. The problem with thinking is sometimes I'll think of a position,
hesitate,
and I'll think, all right, I need to do this and this, and then it's too late.
Yep.
And then you're like, all right, they've already passed. Now that's not going to work anymore. Versus you just do it.
Well, the better you get, the higher level you go against, the time for you to mess up.
It's smaller.
The margins are narrow, dude. It's like you can't
mess up.
You have this little lane to be in, and if you step off of that, you're done.
Yeah,
you're in a bad spot.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
that's what's his name? Brazilian kid. Mika.
Yeah.
He was talking about competing at his level, and he said you get one chance at this level.
Yep.
If you mess up,
it's done.
It's done.
Yeah.
He's like, you get one chance.
Yep.
He's like, if they mess up, it's my game. If I mess up, I'm gonna get caught.
Yep.
Like, because they're just as good. And if I make my mistake, like you said, if I just go out of that lane just a little bit and do something wrong,
you get caught.
They're gonna catch me.
Yeah.
And you're right. The higher level you roll with, that it's the margins get smaller and smaller. Yeah. And that's why I think jiu-jitsu sometimes looks like stalemates, because it's like you're trying not to make the fucking mistake.
Make that mistake.
Yeah, move my arm, let go of this grip, and then boom, now you're in a sweep.
Because you already know that's what they want you to do.
Yeah.
They want you to push off or do whatever, and it's like,
Wow. Yeah, it's crazy. It's just so addicting.
It never stops either, man. Like you see the black belts and the brown belts, and they're still learning. They're still, learning new shit, or even just brushing up on the old stuff.
Or finessing the technique.
Could you imagine,
like, things a little bit better?
How you were saying you forgot more than you remember. Imagine Omar, dude. Like, fuck. It's like they've definitely forgotten more than they remember.
Absolutely. So. Anyways.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's good, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming on and filling the spot for Anthony.
Anytime.
Like
He's
you
over,
said-
he's over there being a little baby.
Yeah,
so
I think that's what's happening right
we
now.
had to-
He's just faking it. Anyways, if you guys like the podcast, leave a comment, leave a like. Make sure you go check out his Instagram. Oh yeah, yeah. What's your?
Oh yeah, Vatos.
Yeah.
_ Studios.
Check that out.
VAT.
He makes a lot of cool art. So he made this. It's pretty badass. Hopefully you guys can. I'm coming right here. Hopefully you guys can see it.
Everyday Pojada.
Yeah. So go check out his Instagram. Follow his art. He makes some dope shit. It's all handmade, which is really cool. That's what I thought was cool about it. Like it's like handmade. It's not made in a factory or something like that.
And I do it all. I mean, it's all going to be like jiu-jitsu kind of stuff and warrior kind of themed and stuff. So, yeah. And I mean, all the art that I do, it's got to be out in the world, man.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna.
He has the hats.
Yeah, I got some hats. I got a bunch of
The
stuff.
leg locks one is probably one of my favorite ones that you've made. Those are badass. I wore that out and I get questions all the time.
Cool.
Yeah. They'll read it. They're like leg locks.
Yeah.
And then they're like.
Yeah, dude. Well, we were at the Padres game and we were wearing that, and all the people with the costumes, and you take pictures with them, and we pull up to them, they're all like, oh,
really?
Yeah. It was awesome.
Cool.
The Star Wars dudes. Yeah.
Were they?
Yeah.
That's fucking cool.
That's funny.
Yeah, that's dope. Yeah. But yeah, make sure you go follow, like the video, leave a comment, and until next time, peace.
Peace.